In the episode 74, I read 3 stories about possession, quite intense cases that fit our usual perception of possession. If you missed it, the link's in the description and at the corner of the screen. But as I briefly mentioned in the intro of that episode, there are also lighter, or shall I say more temporary kind of possessions too, what Koreans would usually call 홀림 or 홀리다. While a full-blown possession is the control of your mind and body taken over by the entity, a temporary possession usually involves tactics of confusion and hallucination to trick or lure you. Most typical case of it is making you lose your way. You think you are going somewhere but never reach your destination because in truth you are just walking round and round in a loop. There were a couple of stories involving such in my past episodes. In my first episode about military and 도깨비, the Korean goblin. If you missed them, I'll leave the links in the description. Today's stories about possession cover all the different ranges, from a painful case that practically dominated the entire life of the victim, to a very weird case of temporary possession. All of them are interesting in their own way and do not quite fit your typical possession story cliché. So, here are 5 allegedly true stories from Korea about possession. As always, handpicked, translated and narrated by your host, Anthony. It happened a year ago. After shopping in Daegu town, I was on my way back to my car. I was shocked to find a little boy jumping on the bonnet of my car. I ran over and shouted to him to get off of my car. I noticed passerbys looking, taking videos and talking behind my back, but I wasn't in the mind to care about that. I kept asking the boy to get off, where his parents were, etc., until I got even more shocked to find the boy's eyes were totally black. I calmed myself, thinking to myself it must be just the darkness that made them look so. When I lifted my head again, the boy wasn't on the bonnet anymore, but on the roof. He was smirking at me with his tongue out, and the tongue got longer and longer till it hit the window screen. I must have fainted at that point, as I don't remember what happened afterwards. When I woke up, I was in an emergency room. As soon as I was discharged, I checked the record from the car dash cam, and I couldn't believe what I found there. It was me. Me jumping on the car. Now I understand why passerbys looked at me with such disdain. What is weirder is I didn't find any dent on the bonnet. I'm an average build and height for a man of my age, and if a person of my size jumped on a car, it wouldn't be normally possible that it didn't leave any damage. But not a scratch. The whole incident left me so confused and scared. I spent a full 1 week hidden at my parents' place. Was I gone mad? Was I possessed by that boy ghost? In whatever case, now I believe there's something inexplicable in this world. My dad has 2 sisters, and it's a story about the younger one. I haven't seen her many years in my adulthood, but even from my childhood, I don't have a good memory about her. On rainy days, she would call out of blue and shout a barrage of despicable swears regardless whoever answered her call. It wasn't just my family, but she would pick any family and relative to do the same on rainy nights. And then, on a bright day, she would turn up again out of blue and gave me pocket money with a smile. And just a few moments later would come back and take the money back again with swears. But I hear she was the most mild child when she was young, shy, introvert, and polite. Her home village was destined to get flooded to make a new dam, and one rainy night, a few days before the moving day, a group of crows started crying out loud, and with that, the aunt had a seizure and fainted. When she got around, she wasn't the same girl anymore. She started throwing temper tantrum with despicable swears as if possessed by the devil himself, especially on rainy nights. Years later, she was married off to an inadequate man for her defects and got even children, but her psychotic fit continued and got gradually worse despite psychiatric treatments. After her husband passed away from an unfortunate accident, her symptoms got much worse and more frequent. During her fit, her voice changed from her usual low husky voice to sharp and ringing one. As a last resort, family decided to bring her to a shaman. On the day, relatives gathered up without telling the aunt that we were going to a shaman, but she seemed to know it all already. She screeched wherever they were taking her to and fought back burly male relatives who were trying to put her in the car. The commotion she created was so noisy that neighbors all came out to watch. Fortunately, she calmed down once in a car. The shaman lived far away, deep in the mountains. From the first look, she said she might not be able to help because my aunt had been already possessed for too long. Well, it was 30 years ago when she had her first episode. That is indeed a long time ago. The shaman pointed a bundle wrapped in a red cloth and said if succeeded, we would be able to untie the wrap, and if not, we wouldn't. After a long cleansing ritual, we all jumped on the bundle to untie the wrap, but it didn't budge. All the while, Aunt watched us with a crooked sneer. In the end, the shaman declared it didn't work. She warned us as we left that we might hear or see something weird on the way down the mountain, but we should just calmly carry on our way. And indeed we all heard strange murmuring and giggles of women, though we could not see anybody around us. It sounded like from more than just a few people, and the noise followed us all the way down. Aunt didn't say anything, but just kept that weird sneer. Having run out of things to try, most relatives cut Aunt off, changed phone numbers and didn't visit her anymore. It may sound cold-hearted, but having suffered her bouts for a long time, I can understand them. Whether you believe me or not, I can feel ghosts. I'm not a shaman, nor have any particular paranormal talent, but I just have the spiritual sensitivity. Back in 2003, I was looking for a job. Living on a tight budget, I frequented a local convenience store for my meals. Instant noodle, cheap lunch boxes, typical easy cheap meals sold in a convenience store. And there I occasionally ran into a young girl, about late teens, and slightly on the chubby side. She would always pick an armful of snacks and nibbles. I wondered why she wouldn't use the bigger supermarket just across the street. Prices were normally cheaper there. But well, it was none of my business anyway. One day I overheard a conversation between the girl and the convenience store staff. Seeing the staff knowing the girl's name, they seemed to have been somewhat acquainted already. Hey, Hidden, I know a teenager is always hungry, but eating all these snacks won't do you good, the staff said.
I know, but they're not just for me, the girl said.
What do you mean?
A baby ghost nags me to get him this and that, and I can't help it.
Oh, give me a break. There's no need to excuse yourself.
But it's true. You see, this candy and that crisps, they are for the baby ghost.
The girl made that outlandish claim so nonchalantly. Now, me having the spiritual sensitivity, I could not help but get intrigued by the conversation and paid attention to the girl. But I could not sense anything about her. A ghost strong enough to stick around under the bright daylight is bound to give off certain aura or energy, but there wasn't anything such. Maybe she just felt a bit self-conscious about her shape and was making up such silly joke. But from the day on, Hijin, the girl, started displaying odd behavior. She picked up an armful of snacks as usual, all right, but now she mumbled through the process as if talking to somebody next to her.
Hey, sweetie, you said you wanted this, right? I'll get you one, no problem. What about this one, huh?
She was clearly having fun, judging by her expression, while the store staff watching her half concerned and half laughing at her absurd act. I still didn't feel anything unusual about her, and I just silently laughed about the girl's commitment to her own made-up story. And then I was away for a while. Had a work opportunity in a different town, but sadly that didn't work out, and I came back to where I was after about a month. I trottled to the convenience store for a quick lunch again, but I felt a bit odd, like I shouldn't go in. To shake off the feeling, I had a short chit-chat with my girlfriend, now my wife, on the phone in front of the store, when a sudden chill and creepy feeling enwrapped me, coming from the store door. I instinctively turned away, pretending I was still on the phone. The door opened with a wave of creepy, unpleasant feeling, followed by the familiar voice saying,
We have lots and lots to nibble. Isn't it lovely, sweetie?
I stole a quick peep to the side. Hijin walked past me and was waiting at the crosswalk. And right next to her was a spirit of a woman creepily looking at the girl with an ear-to-ear smile. I turned away as not to give away the sign that I noticed the presence and quickly entered the store. The same staff was keeping the counter, but with a visibly tired-looking expression. I said hello and got her a vitamin drink. "You are looking particularly tired today. Hope all is well?" I said. "All is well, thank you. Except, well, you know the young girl, don't you? One who just left the store?" the staff said. Apparently the girl carried on talking to the baby ghost whenever she came to shop her snacks, and the staff just expected she should get tired of it sometime soon. But since when, her gibberish talk started becoming more detailed and real, as if she was really having a chat with somebody. And with that, the staff would feel strange creeps whenever Hijin came to the store. Goosebumps and even stinging headache for no reason. The worst was the oppressive sense of something watching her when the girl was in the store. According to the staff, Hijin initially wasn't much bothered about her shape. She just loved her food. But with a growing pressure from her parents, she got more and more stressed. Apparently, the reason she would buy the snacks from the convenience store was because the owner of the supermarket nearby was a friend to her parents, and he would snitch on how much nibbles Hijin bought. The staff regretted her comment about the girl's purchase if it didn't tip her already stressed mind over and made her weird. Or could it really be that she was possessed by something? All the while, the staff kept frowning, clearly still feeling the stinging headache. I don't know what happened to the girl. I actually stopped visiting the convenience store to avoid running into Hijin again. I may have spiritual sensitivity, but I don't have any power as to fend off a ghost, and especially when the ghost should be so strong as to induce nausea and headache by its sheer presence. Call me a chicken, but I could not deal with such. My advice is, just don't joke about ghosts, not even as a jest. It's from last year. I was just beginning my first year in university. Everything was normal, lectures during the week, part-time on weekends, until, since when, I started feeling weak. I would get daily nose bleeding, lose weight, until eventually I just felt too unwell to attend lectures. I could barely get by day to day on painkillers. A normal cold or even a bad flu should have passed in 10 or 15 days, but whatever this was, it wasn't getting better. One day, severe dizziness struck me, and that was finally the signal to seek medical help. Doctor's diagnosis was a flu, and I was given a drip. I felt still unwell, but tried to go back to my normal routine. But a few days later, I fainted during the commute on metro. When I woke up, I was in hospital, and my parents with the teary eyes were keeping my side. I found myself hooked up to another drip. I got a double vision, sounds echoed in my ears, and my heart ached so bad that I could not even walk well. I became a subject to cerebral spinal fluid analysis, brain MRI, TB test, and a dozen more tests to find out what was wrong with me. The result after a week was that I had meningitis. Because of the position where the inflammation took place, it was affecting my sight. For now. I'd have to see if the damage would be permanent or not, doctor said. I could not believe it was all happening to me. One day an ordinary freshman, and now a blind? I was so scared. Myself in the mirror was all gaunt, and one eye went squint that I could not recognize myself. On top of the existing tragedy, the hospital I was staying had a breakout of MERS. A patient from my next room was turned out positive with MERS virus, and everybody who were in close contact were ordered to quarantine, including me and my parents who were taking care of me. The whole hospital was sealed off, and I and my mom were put in separate hospitals. With all the miserable turnouts of events, I was seriously depressed. I don't know if I had MERS too or not, but suffered high fever and chills. My eyes could not focus, and even the simple task of lifting a spoon and bringing it to my mouth became a challenge. One day, my grandma called us. My parents hadn't told her about me and the whole situation yet, as not to worry her. But she claimed that the Buddhist monk she was well acquainted with warned her. "Your granddaughter is in danger. A malicious lost soul had stuck itself to her." I was terrified. If the monk who lived in Busan should know something was wrong with me in Seoul, it should be serious-ish indeed. I knew it was the same monk who named me when I was born, but I hadn't even met him since then. He wrote a special talisman for me, and my grandma visited the temple every day to pray for me. I don't know if that had worked, but my sight started recovering and also gained back the 10 kilo I had lost, all much sooner than the projected 4 months doctors predicted. It might have been all coincidences, but there are definitely something uncanny in how things all panned out and resolved. I'm just an ordinary 23-year-old guy, and this happened just a few days ago. It was Friday night. Looking forward to a relaxing, quiet weekend, I went to bed early at about 7 in the evening. But I just woke up in the middle of the night, about at 2. I love sleeping and am a deep sound sleeper too, so this was unusual for me. I groggily went to kitchen to grab a glass of water and came back to bed to go back to sleep. I usually sleep on my side, and I felt something furry brushing on my back. I was shirtless, it being a summer. At first I couldn't bother to react, but when something rough and sticky tapped on my shoulder, I was startled and looked back. I had never seen anything like it. A face with a completely white head of hair. Her skin was peeling off here and there, and her nose and mouth were all collapsed and squished. I screamed. It was a dream. Thank God. I was still all drenched in sweat. I grabbed a glass of water in the kitchen and went back to bed. But then something furry brushed on my back. I was frozen stuck, and soon something sticky and rough tapped on my back once again. I slowly turned around, only to meet that horrible face once again. I woke up with a startle, and it was a dream, but the same dream repeated a couple more times. In the end, I got more curious than scared and asked the horrible-looking old woman, "What do you want from me?" Her squished lips didn't open, but gestured me to follow her. "You will stop repeating this if I follow you?" I said, to which she nodded. She headed to the kitchen and pointed a fridge. I opened its door and she pointed a glass bottle inside.
"You must be thirsty. Drink it,"
she said for the first time. I was too scared to reject, so gulped down from the bottle.
"Now see me off to the street, and I won't come back,"
she said. I live in an apartment, but in that dream there weren't the stairs and elevators, but the front door led straight to the courtyard. As I walked over to the gate with the old woman, somehow I felt breathless and sweaty. After she went out of the gate, I stepped out to make sure she went away. But something blocked me from taking that step. The old woman turned to look at me and beckoned me to come to her, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not move, barred by an invisible obstacle. Then I felt cold drops of water on my head, which really woke me up from the dream. First thing I felt was pain at my shin. I was standing on the edge of the rooftop and was bumping into the safety railing. Had it not for the timely raindrops that woke me up, I would very well have walked over it and felt the ground. I got scared to death and ran all the way back to my place. Feeling so anxious, I opened up the fridge to drink some cold water. Then I remembered the glass bottle the old hag told me to drink from. It was a bottle of whiskey that I'd been keeping just for an occasional sleepless night, and by fact I knew it was almost full. But now it was clean empty. So that clever old hag made me drink hard liquor to keep me well unconscious, and lured me to the rooftop to kill me. If it weren't for the high railing and rain, the plan could have worked. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I think one should take possession stories with a certain caution, because some of them could be a case of medical problem rather than paranormal. Even today's stories can be interpreted as a case of temporary insanity or a physical health issue or a particularly bad sleepwalking, perhaps. What do you think? But whichever the case, it is no less spooky to think we could act out totally unhinged and out of control. If you enjoyed my work, please give it a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel to help it grow. If you'd support me more directly, I also have Buy Me a Coffee account. The link's in the description. Buy Me a Coffee supporters will get an early access to my new videos. Thank you. I'll come back next Sunday as usual. Stay safe and take care.